Welcome to Sensible Secondhand Reviews, the series where we look at practical and sensible cars that you can buy for a budget of between £1,000 and £5,000. This is a 2020 MG ZS 1 litre T-GDi exclusive automatic. But is it any good? Should you care? Let's find out, shall we? So this generation of MG ZS was launched in 2017. It has nothing whatsoever to do with the MG ZS that was sold in the 2000s that was based on the Rover 45. Of course, I used to have a Rover 45 V6 for many years, so I know this well too. This particular car was one of the two first MG models to be entirely imported from China and not partially assembled at Longbridge as some of the early MG6s, MG3s were. And it represented a very different sort of customer from the person who would have bought one of those early Chinese era MGs. Suspension's very soft, it's fitting into the very popular small crossover market, and actually this has been a real success for the company. The second generation was launched in 2024 and I drove one of those last year. Back in the early days of the channel, this was a car that I was very familiar with because we drove an absolute ton of these. I drove a 1 litre automatic like this exclusive in dynamic tricoat red in 2019. I then drove two facelifted one of these, both exclusives, with 1.5 manual and a 1 litre automatic like this. Before that, I think I'd driven a 1.5 Excite model, and then I drove in 2021 the brand new 1 litre exclusive manual 6-speed. So I know these cars pretty well. Why am I bothering to film this then when I've already covered the ZS range so comprehensively? Well, the reason for that is because these are now sensible second-hand reviews cars. I had a look the other day and you can buy these for under £5,000. Now, for that sort of money, you're not going to be getting an automatic car like this. You're going to be getting a manual car, an early 1.5, probably in, I don't know, Excite trim mainly. Maybe even an Explorer. The Explorers are rare as rare can be. They started off the range at about £12,500, which in 2017, really the only things around for sort of money were the SsangYong Tivoli, the Dacia Duster. The Dacia Duster was even less than this, if you can imagine that. The ride and handling of these cars is, well, it's very much oriented towards comfort. It's not a sports car. It's not some typical, older MG where it's all about the driver. It's very much about sort of sitting back and relaxing. One thing I have done though in this car is put the steering into the sort of sporty mode, dynamic mode. Let's try urban. Oh, it's become very, very light. Nope. Normal. Gosh, it's really bad stepping away at this touchscreen to actually try and just operate the steering mode. Normal, yeah, that feels okay, I suppose. What I want is dynamic. I like dynamic. Let's leave it in that. I don't think it does anything with the transmission or the engine. It just literally the steering gives you a bit more feel through this electric system if you do that. The two engines available were a 1.5 out of the MG3 with 104 horsepower and a 5-speed manual, and then this 1 litre 3-cylinder turbo with 109 horsepower, which is out of Vauxhall Corsa E, actually, not the electric one. It'd be generation of Corsa made between 2014 and 2019. They're very similar engines, actually. So, yeah, it feels okay going at sort of higher speeds on this dual carriageway. One thing I am going to get when I go round the the corner and come back there with some body roll, because it's quite a high car and we haven't got the firmest suspension in here, so they're not really set up for a keen driver, these cars, but they're absolutely fine. They're very comfortable. I've driven, these on very, very long journeys before, and they are really comfortable. And having all this extra equipment, this exclusive model, for example, does mean that you actually are quite relaxed when you're going along, and you can put the steering into dynamic like this. It feels good going around here. Actually, the corner's a little bit flatter than I remember. I remember it being sort of worse than this, but it's not too bad. Put my foot down. 0 to 60 apparently takes about 12 seconds. Do you have sport mode in this thing? Oh, we do. Okay. It's still not going very fast. When I'm winding this thing up, going past this L driver. Come on. The engine's very quiet. We're doing like 5,000 RPM or something like that, but it's not very fast, this car. The 1.5s are even slower than this. I mean, they don't have as much torque, and so although 0 to 60 time is about, I think, 11 seconds, this is about 12. You've got to rev that thing into its life to be able to do anything. This, at least, it has a bit more torque and it feels a bit smoother. What a sad state of affairs it is for you is that the side of the old Cricket House pub, or at least the access road to it, is now covered in absolute junk. That is a real shame, actually, isn't it? Anyway, the car. So this has only done 4,800 miles from new, this particular example. It's a very late pre-facelift one. One of the ways you can tell it's a pre-facelift car is actually the wheels. They look really small by standards of 2025. The facelift that occurred in the summer of 2020 actually had much larger wheels than this. They fill the arches much better. Although I think it still looks fine. So we've got reversing camera on this. We've got nice bits of sort of chrome trim. Got the roof rails on this, the alloy wheels. Unfortunately, although it's on really low mileage, the diamond cut wheels are sort of showing signs of kind of deterioration because of, I don't know, diamond cut wheels always do, don't they? It's a shame. Boot on these is quite big, actually. It's about 448 litres, which is, I think, larger than a second generation Qashqai. The other thing as well is that you can actually make the boot a bit more usable for lots of people by pulling the floor up, which I can do with one hand. There we go. Just like in the old days. There we are. The only thing is, you only get a tyre inflator kit, you don't get a spare wheel. I would love a spare wheel. I can't remember if you could get one or not. I certainly would like to invest in one if it's in my car. But yeah, plenty of space in here. The only thing I would say is, not only does that light go off quite quickly, I can't see in here a 12-volt socket, which is annoying. The SsangYong Tivoli, which obviously I will be referring to many times during this video, has a 12-volt socket in the boot, but the capacity is not as big, so it's up to you what you want. Ooh, metal trade plate, wonderful. One of the main things that's great about these cars actually is there's space in the back. There's so much space in the back of one of these ZS's. Whether you go for the pre-facelift, this one, or the post-facelift. On this exclusive model, we've got this artificial leather. I think Mercedes call it Artico leather, which is fine. Door cards are sort of hard plastic, but these cars, brand new, in this spec, were £18,000, so can't really complain, can you? One thing you'll notice actually though in here is we don't get a USB port in the back, but no armrest is available at all for the driver at the time, and these are things that were corrected later in the facelifted models. One thing you don't get at all though is I don't think the glass is actually tinted in the back particularly at all. You can see it's the same as the front. You also don't get a courtesy light for the rear passengers. You don't get a rear armrest. Now these are all things that you get as standard in this SsangYong Tivoli. So if you are comparing the two cars, just bear in mind the differences between them. Actually the materials do feel fine. By this stage, MGs were being made in China. They weren't made at Longbridge anymore like some of the early Shanghai Automotive MGs were, like the one we used to have. But the quality seems absolutely fine to me. Now, we're looking at the best example possible of a pre-facelift car, because it's done 4,000 miles, and it's 4,800 miles, and it's actually one of the very last of these in the top spec. So not all of them will look as nice as this when you're buying a ZS for your, modest budget. But yeah, looks okay. The only thing I would say is, although we've got some accents around the door handles, it's just a little bit dark in here. You could do a panoramic sunroof, and they were available on this generation of ZS, but only on the facelift models at a 1 litre exclusive automatic. You couldn't get one apart from that, which is a shame, because it really, really would make a difference to the interior. At least we've only got a dark headliner though. Right, let's get in the front. Forgot to say we've got big door bins in the back as well. And of course, in the front, no keyless entry at this stage. You can get it on the facelifted cars. Just very sort of straightforward really. The door locking buttons are here. The interior door handles do feel okay, they feel perfectly acceptable. These switches were in a lot of MG models at the time. And then we've got the door bins, which are quite big. This car does need some fun preparation, so we'll have a clean out before it goes to the customer. So yeah, no keyless entry, just put the key in, which is fine. A lot of you won't be bothered about things like that, particularly if it's the money that you'd be paying for one of these cars as opposed to anything else. 8-inch touchscreen. It doesn't have Android Auto, unfortunately, but only the facelifted models do, which is kind of annoying, I suppose, but there we go. We'll turn that off. Yeah, Apple CarPlay only. It's only 8 inches. When the car was launched in 2017, this was absolutely fine, but by 2020, when the facelift had come along, it just seemed maybe it's a touch dated. But it's simple enough to use this. It's not really a big problem. This is actually the entire menu system in here. So we've actually got sat nav on here. When it actually loads, what did they used to call it? I think it's called iGo, the old MG sat nav system in these cars. There we go. Yeah, we are just on my access road to the old cricket house. If you want to go back, you press that button there. Car. Oh yeah, we're going to have to turn it on just to see them. Setup. Here we go. So we've got all sorts of things in here. We can play with digital radio and Bluetooth and the display and all kind of stuff like that if you want to. But really, we'll just turn the ignition on. Hopefully we'll be able to get to some of the car settings. Right. Oh, bongs. Lovely. Oh dear. Right. One thing we do want to do is actually put the steering into dynamic mode, but just means it's a bit heavier. So like I said on Tivoli, you can have 3-mode steering. Urban is far too light. Normal is, I don't know. Dynamic is the one that I would always use. We've also got things like follow me home lighting. And then the functional has a little soft key, and you can configure that to the Apple CarPlay, car and home if you want to. Other than that, there's not really much else to say about this, so we're not going to bother saying very much at all. SRC buttons on here, and then down here we've got physical controls for the climate control. So if I want to turn the temperature up, you can see at the moment I don't know if it's hot or cold, so what I have to do is actually turn it like this, and then at the bottom of the screen it will appear. Down there, they've only got one USB port and one 12-volt socket in this pre-facelift car. The later ones have a lot more sort of convenience. They've got multiple USB ports in them. The dashboard's not too bad. We've got soft touch materials on the top. These vents looked a little bit like, I don't know, an Audi or something. The steering wheel looks a little bit sort of Volkswagen Golf-like. Wonder who SAIC were kind of aping at the time. Let's see if my mission documents fit in here. I don't remember them actually doing so. If I take the book pack out, that might be a little bit easier, but I'm not hopeful, unfortunately, with this. We'll just see what happens. No. Still no. After all these years, no. That is a big shame, dear. Put the book pack back in. Yeah. No sunglasses holder. I don't think we get any courtesy lights for these. No. No. The base model of these was £12,500 in 2017, which is crazy these days. You can't buy a ZS now, which is about just over 7 years later, for less than about £22,000-23,000. Granted, you get a hybrid powertrain, a lot more equipment, but nevertheless, it just shows how things have gone. Look here, we don't get a centre armrest. We do get 2 cup holders in there though, and somewhere to put your phone just in here. This has the twin clutch automatic transmission. The 1.5 version came with a 5-speed manual. Electric mirror switch. I can't remember if they still use these or not in MGs, but they used them for a long time, this little switch here. And then these stalks were used in loads of different MGs as well. I think even today they still use a variant of these. And then there's the cruise control down there. We haven't got MG Pilot in this particular car because it's a pre-facelift one. So we haven't got a lot of things like blind spot monitoring or anything like that in here, which might be quite useful, but you do have to pay a lot more money for one of the later cars to get that. Right, almost finished. Let's have a look at the engine. One thing to be careful in these cars is the bonnet release and the fuel flap release are the same size and they're right next to each other. So make sure you don't pull the wrong one when you're getting out of the car, because otherwise you'll have to be closing things. Right, we just filled up this bonnet of second views and we shall have a look underneath. So this is a 1 litre 3-cylinder turbocharged engine developing 109 horsepower. It's actually very similar to the engine that the previous generation Vauxhall Corsa and Vauxhall Adam. It was co-developed between Shanghai Automotive and General Motors. It's actually a very, very good engine, this. They tend to be very, very sturdy. They're not a wet belt engine, they're a chain engine. This one, obviously, because this car has such low mileage, it looks in great condition, and of course it is. So these cars came with a 7-year warranty. All of them should be under warranty unless the mileage limit of 80,000 miles has been exceeded. So literally, they're just coming to the end of their warranty period. Some of the very first of these. Car was launched late 2017. So yeah, the grill is massive actually. I think the later car, the facelift, does look better. You get LED lights, things like that. This doesn't have anything like that. But maybe with this sort of money that we start at about £5,000, now we start up to an early 1.5 car. Maybe we won't be bothered about that sort of thing. Right, let's go out and have a drive, shall we? So yeah, not the most dynamic car to drive, but the average ZS buyer, when his range started at £12,500 of the Explore model, I don't think they'd really care. I think a Sanion Tivoli is a little bit further than this. I think they're a little bit better to drive. I mean, I'm a bit biased. I've owned one of those for 5 years, so, maybe I'm biased, but this is still absolutely fine. And, the seat's nice and comfortable. In later facelift cars, you can get with an electric driver's seat. This is manual, but it's okay. Yeah, it's not a bad car for sort of money that you're going to be paying. So yes, my dealer plate is rattling in the windscreen, which is standard. But yeah, brakes are good. Obviously, it's not a typical car you'd be buying for sort of budget we're discussing here. When this has done 4,800 miles, this is worth, I don't know, like for 12, 13,000, something like that, this car, because of its low mileage and the fact that it's the top model with this automatic gearbox. But yeah, it just highlights to me actually that MG came up with a very, very competitive product back in 2017, and they deserve the success that they've had with this. It just feels a little bit sort of soft and a little bit unengaging, really, to me, this car, even with the, best potential sort of setup here with the 1 litre turbo engine and its exclusive trim. It's much better, really, if you can, to go for a facelifted 1 litre manual car, which exclusive trim comes with the panoramic sunroof. They just are a little bit better than this. It suits the car quite well. The only issue I would say is you've got to be aware of with these cars. Obviously, there is a 7-year, 80,000 mile warranty, so most of them will be still covered by that. Is the clutches, which tend to be a bit weak. So if you're buying one of these, just make sure that actually that's okay. Apart from that, the automatic ones tend to be really, really good. They are the sort of pick really mostly, particularly if you are someone who prefers smoothness. This gearbox is very, very smooth. But I have quite enjoyed myself driving this car today. Thank you very much indeed once again for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video and leave a comment below. And we shall see you again soon for some more reasonably priced motoring.